What's up, everybody? My name is Kiefer, and welcome to the Lore Library. I've been wanting to make videos on comics for a while, and so I thought that we should start with one of my favorite comics from back in the day. It's been a little over 10 years since this came out, but tonight we're going to be going over the meeting of Deadpool and Carnage. And so we open up in this little diner in Kansas, and there's a dude reading the paper, and he's talking about the recent murders of Carnage and how it's ridiculous that Carnage hasn't been shot down like a dog. And he says, I'll tell you one thing, if he's ever unlucky enough to cross my path, I'll be damn sure to shoot first and demonstrate my humanitarian spirit second. And as he says this, we sort of get a shot of this guy in a red hat sitting next to him with his eyes covered. And so after the guy says that Carnage needs to be shot like a dog, this guy in the red hat says, "Is that a fact, Mr. Trooper?" And then, of course, Carnage bursts out of his face and just splits the guy's skull open. And so this other group of big dudes stands up and they basically say, "Hey, freak show, we don't like people in weird costumes." And Carnage is just like, "Everybody relax. What is it they say? Peace?" And of course, as he turns around and slices everybody into pieces, he says, "Pieces." And so he goes on a rampage and basically decimates everybody in this diner. And we'll see it more in the later issues of this series, but here we get a little bit of a glimpse of Carnage being truly insane, because Marvel typically strays away from things like killing innocent kids for no reason, but again, as we'll see in the later issues of this miniseries, Carnage is not bound by those same rules. Carnage is actually insane. He does just live for the pure decimation of everything, and it puts him like a kind of a level above a lot of other Marvel villains just in terms of his ruthlessness, because he will just kill little kids for fun. And so after that, we cut to Deadpool, and we get a little bit of a Archer cut, the way that Archer will have a character start a sentence, and then they'll cut to another character that's finishing the sentence.
Oh, for seriously?
Yes! Why? Because you're just wearing it to piss me off.
And so we get a little blurb that says, "We should take a moment to warn our viewers. The following scenes depict graphic violence and might be unsettling," as we cut to Wade Wilson in his apartment watching TV. So as he's eating food, we see Wade Wilson watching a news coverage of the Carnage massacre that we just saw. And basically on the news, the authorities are saying, well, we're trying our best, we have our best psychologists and our best profilers working on the case, but this guy is just crazy. There's no pattern, there's nothing that we can track. And Wade Wilson is basically like, okay, I'm bored of this, let's find something else to watch. And so he starts flipping through channels randomly. And as he does, the people in the TV sort of seem to spell out a message saying the killer is not acting randomly as he believes. Ride the wave of insanity, and you can be the first to find him, boy. And so Wade Wilson is sort of like, wait, am I crazy, or did the TV just tell me something? So he drops down to his knees. He goes, "What are you trying to tell me, TV people? Am I the only person who's crazy enough to track Carnage?" And as he says this, the TV shows a clip of a game show going, "Ding, ding, ding, congratulations, you're right on the money." And so Deadpool goes, "You know what? I'm going to take that as a sign. We're going to go find Carnage." And as Deadpool's talking about how he's crazy and Cletus Cassidy is crazy and that's how he's going to track him, we see in the TV a picture of Jordan D. White, who was the editor for Deadpool. And he was actually the editor for Star Wars and then I believe X-Men, but he was editing Deadpool at the time that this came out. It's just a funny little cameo. So as he suits up and gets ready to head out, he goes, he's talking about how everybody's going to cheer him on as he catches Carnage. And he says, "And when I catch him," and as he does, this bird slams into the window and dives. And he goes, "Yeah, that seems about right." And so Deadpool is on his way to find Carnage. So we cut to Wade Wilson on the street, and everybody's kind of looking at him and taking pictures. They're like, what is with this guy? Aren't there shelters for people like that? And as this is happening, Deadpool's just kind of oblivious to it all. He's like, world, can you give me a sign? Where is Carnage? And as he says this, he sees this old looking guy with a bloody briefcase walking down the road talking about ripping meat apart. And Deadpool goes, okay, I can work with that. And so we see the butcher burst out the door, yelling, presumably at his boss inside, about how it's not his fault that the guy is too cheap to buy good knives. And the bloodstain on his apron kinda looks like the face of Carnage. And so Deadpool follows this guy to a convenience store, where he sees a little kid playing a Mortal Kombat game called Absolute Carnage. And so as he's watching this kid, he looks to the right and he sees a sort of tabloid advertising America's new ghost town. And so as Deadpool sees this tabloid talking about abandoned towns in America, he sort of takes this as his sign of where Cletus must be staying. And so after that, we cut to Cletus, who is in fact staying in this ghost town in Oklahoma, and he's just standing on the porch in his underwear, talking about how great it is that where else in America can a carefree murderer like myself stand on the porch in his drawers. And as he's talking about how great freedom is and how simple and beautiful he's going to get back to the basics, pure chaos, no plans, no nothing, we see this missile launch out of the roof of a building a ways away. And Cletus goes, what the hell is that? And as he does, he ducks as a Deadpool missile flies over his head, exploding the house behind him. And we get this really cool shot of Cletus getting thrown by the explosion as he transforms into Carnage. And then when he lands, we get this really cool shot where it looks like the symbiote is almost a liquid that's like poured over top of his body, and then it reforms back together as he stands up. And Deadpool walks over, he starts shooting him, giving all his one-liners. And Carnage sort of just isn't having any of it. He eats all the shots, he blocks the sword blows, and he says, you got swords, I got plenty. Guns, who needs them? And he starts tearing through Deadpool. And he jumps on top of him and he goes, who the hell do you think you are? And Deadpool goes, me? I'm Deadpool. And he basically pulls a pin on this grenade and he shoves his hand all the way down Carnage's throat, blowing both his hand off and Carnage's head off at the same time. And so they're thrown away from one another. And Deadpool stands back up. He goes, I think I might have left some fingers inside of you. When they come out, you can just flush them. I'll grow them back. And so as he pulls out his sword, he's getting ready to finish off Carnage. He gets blasted by this enormous shrieking sound. And we get another really cool shot of Shriek standing behind Carnage, standing behind Deadpool with his face melted off. And Carnage, of course, stands back up and says, Shriek, what would I do without you? And so moving into issue 2, we cut back to Carnage lifting Deadpool with a melted face off of the ground. And he says, I'm going to ask you this question once, and you better answer, you better give me the correct answer. He says, how did you find me? And we know that Deadpool was just, literally following signs of the universe. The TV told him where to go, and then he followed this guy who was just bloody to a butcher shop. So Deadpool's not actually tracking anything. He's just kind of being crazy, and that's exactly what he says. And so when he says, well, I just followed the clues, Carnage gets real mad. He goes, there ain't no clues. And Deadpool goes, what do you want me to say? I'm crazy. You're crazy. I just kind of was crazy. I just kind of followed the crazy patterns. And Carnage goes, there ain't no patterns. And so he slams Deadpool. And as he does this, Deadpool's like, do you like music? And Shriek and Carnage start to get a little cocky. They're like, I think he's starting to hallucinate. And Deadpool reaches down. He goes, it's always nice to get to know the victim before you meet him. And he presses this speaker on his hip and just starts blasting dubstep music. And he goes, I've met your daddy, your brother, whatever he is. I've met Venom before, and he hates this stuff. And so I figured that I'd bring some to help with you. And as he's sort of like monologuing over Carnage here, Shriek just blasts him again, this time blasting the speakers. And so she breaks them, And Wade Wilson's like, oh, so embarrassing. And Carnage tells him that, I mean, yeah, sounds can hurt me, but I'm not Venom. Sounds won't keep me down. And so Wade Wilson goes, yeah, I thought that might be a problem. And he throws 2 incendiary grenades at him and then dives to the ground. And as he dives to the ground, nothing happens. And Carnage is like, looks like your gear failed you, buddy. You should have bought American. And Wade Wilson goes, oh, wait, no, I forgot. I attached these to a remote detonator. And he presses the button, and then Carnage explodes, throwing them both again. And so as Wade Wilson's standing there celebrating deranged mass murderer 1, other deranged mass murderer 0, we see Carnage's tentacle reach up, and he blows Deadpool's stomach out again. And as Deadpool rolls over and his guts are spilling out of his back, he sees Shriek flying away with Carnage. And as he's complaining about how if he had a flying girlfriend that he would also just fly away, he passes out on the ground. But that is where we're gonna wrap this first episode up. I honestly, like I said, this came out a while ago, so I'll probably have, I don't know how many episodes I'm gonna do this in, because I'm gonna kind of follow the arc of the stories rather than the individual issues, because there's only 4 issues, and like I said, this was like issue 1 and then the first half of issue 2. And so I think I'm just going to kind of follow the natural arc of each chapter. I don't know if this is actually going to be 4 or if it's just going to be 3 videos. But thank you everybody so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share for more. Check out Cult Rising for all of your Cult Rising content. Check out Kiefer TV for, well, I guess all your Backrooms content. And I will see you next time.